So namaste and welcome to satsang. I wanted tonight to do something a little bit different and to look into, to maybe explain a little bit more. If you've heard me teach at all, you probably know that I'm always giving out questions for contemplation or self-inquiry questions as one of the most direct ways to come to live as that truth, not only to see but to live. And contemplation I've found my own pathway and in helping other beings is the most direct route, of which self-inquiry is really a form of that. So I wanted to really look at why that is so effective and how to work with it within our own pathways. It's a subject that comes up repeatedly. Why does a question work so well? Why am I always giving out questions to undo beliefs that we have? And it was requested recently maybe we'd hold satsang on this so that we can work with this process more. So contemplation is an antidote for automatically believing our mind. It is immediate undoing of the habitual tendency that we all have to believe certain thoughts. And as such, it's the most direct way that I've found. We can rest as our real being. We can recognize what we really are. We can come to understand, to see again and again what that place within us that is not changing, it's not moving, it's not becoming anything. It's certainly not believing thoughts already. And then for most of us, as it was for myself, there are certain places in our life where thoughts are just triggered. Perhaps they come with some strong emotion. Perhaps your mind is just talking constantly. And that comes with regular negative emotions and the corresponding experience of those thoughts. And I really wanted to just dig into why that is. So, and then how to use contemplation to really undo that. So why do we suffer as human beings? If there is this natural state within us, as us, that is the formless background, context of our mind and body's existence, the formless space of my being in which my mind and body are appearing, then why are we suffering as human beings? What seems to cause that? And it is a very simple thing, and when understood, you'll be really empowered to begin to lift yourself out of it. So all of us have thoughts going through our head, and that's the same for everybody. That's just what it is to have a human brain and to have the life force flowing through the body. Where we begin to suffer is where attention is habitually going to those thoughts, and it's an almost involuntary process. So I can be resting in that silence that is my real being, and then somebody says something, or something happens in my external world or my life, or there's not enough of something, and suddenly these thoughts are triggered, and immediately attention goes to these thoughts. And this is why we're suffering, because already you are that infinitely powerful self. You've never actually been just a human being. Being. You've never been a human being. Easier to be than to say. So any thought that you put attention upon, you are so powerful that it's like putting up some binoculars to look at the world through. You're going to experience the thought that you're paying attention to. And most of us, our noisy mind, our Our mind is full of assumptions about things that we are sure that we know to be true. So anything that we know with a conviction, we're going to experience again and again and again. You cannot believe a thought without it producing a negative emotion and then having the corresponding experiences going on in your life, in your body, your world, your relationships, your finances, your life, your career, all of it. And most of all, perhaps in satsang for us, in our awakening. So certain thoughts are being believed, and we are either paying attention to the thoughts consciously or to the result of those thoughts, which is negative emotions. So there are certain thoughts that we all have. The idea that I'm not safe is going to produce fear, and then that will translate into fearful experiences. Not being able to get, have, or be what I feel I need to be safe. The thought that I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, is going to produce feelings of shame and guilt, and it's going to come with experiences that prove that to be true to us. We have to keep unconsciously creating experiences that are the result of looking through this particular belief. If I look at the world, my awakening, my life through these I'm not good enough binoculars, then everything that we experience is going to be coloured by that. So how do we bring attention away from those thoughts? There's no way to do it with the mind because mind is going to keep those assumptions, keep generating those thoughts, looking at our experiences and saying, see, it's true that I'm not good enough because it's happening in my life. So to bring attention, how do we stop believing these thoughts, which is really what putting attention on them means. Any thought that we really feel is true, we're going to give a lot of attention to. If somebody said something to you that was just so obviously not true, that we're in the end of May now, and let's say somebody told you it's December, you wouldn't listen to it at all because you know it's clearly not. It wouldn't be anything that you would want to consider at all. It's just obvious, so you would brush it away. If, however, somebody said something to you that you were sure was true, and it was agreeing with how you felt inside, then a lot of attention would go to the thoughts. Or perhaps if the thought's been so well believed, we may not even be conscious of it running through our brain. And maybe we've brought it from our previous lifetime into this one. We've come into this lifetime with these ideas about ourselves and our world. And we've been living out these experiences. So you can't just stop believing thoughts. You can't stop paying attention to thoughts. If it were that easy, then the very first time that all of us recognize the real self, our attention would just stay there because it feels so much nicer, and it is what is real. So there's another way, a very effective way that I've found to undo this idea that I know. Whatever I feel I know, I have divided myself in my experience. If I know that I'm not safe, then I have divided myself from the rest of my every-awareness, my infinite nature. Not in reality, only in my imagination, but I will feel divided. The body will feel some negative emotion based on this idea that I'm a separate being here. And I'm feeling of this particular way. So the whole reason for suffering is I know what I am convinced of because I keep on experiencing it. But we're experiencing it because attention's going to these thoughts. So how do we undo this I know? How do we undo this tendency to shrink ourselves down and contract around a certain thought and therefore experience it again and again? How do we break out of that cycle? And it's really a very simple thing to ask a question. So the question is going to counteract I know, because we wouldn't be curious to find out if this thing is true if we were sure that it is true. So if I am absolutely convinced that I'm not good enough as a person or as a seeker trying to find awakening, then I'm going to give a lot of attention to this thought that I'm not good enough and all the ways that that is playing out in my life. So much so that it may never occur to me to question, is it true? When we've had enough of suffering, or when we've heard about contemplation, we can ask a question, is it really true? Just because I've been experiencing, feeling that way, and I keep having these experiences in my life, is it really actually true? So the moment that we're curious, we've opened up again. We're immediately in the opposite experience of I know. If I know something, then I'm a separate being again, immediately, in my imagination at least. And I have picked up this thought, and it is my thought, and then it will be my experience. If I don't know that this is true, and to ask a question, to really want to find out if it's true, then you must be coming from this place of not knowing. The very act of questioning, is this actually true, is going to open me up, and I'm going to feel like that unknown mystery that is the real self immediately. The self that we all are intuitively, infinite self, doesn't know anything at all. Nothing at all. It's not, just by itself naturally, it's not able to pick up thoughts. It's not able to contract around a certain experience or a negative emotion or even a positive emotion. So the very moment we're asking a question, we're going to have the exact opposite experience of how it feels to know something. And even if there are still negative emotions in the body in that moment, we won't be contracted around them. We won't be contracted around those experiences. We won't be contracted around those thoughts. What do I mean by contracted? I mean, we won't be automatically paying attention to them. And you can see that happening maybe in your own life, where mind suggests something to you. You're quite happy, peaceful, and then mind suggests something to you. And you try as much as you really can. You cannot stop attention going to that, because that thought is deemed to be very, very true in your psyche, in your egoic sense of self. At the very moment I'm asking, even while some part of me is still believing and experiencing, is this really true, actually? Or has it just been playing on a continuous loop my entire existence because I've been paying attention to this thought because I didn't know how to bring attention away? Is it really true? Is an openness. It's a not knowing if it's true. It's a statement, I don't know if it's true. It's the polar opposite to I know. So if you can sort of grasp that, then you can begin to ask this question. Whatever is coming up, that your experience that is happening to you is suggesting. What is it that's suggested to you by your experiences that go on and over again? Are you seemingly failing in your awakening, and that makes you feel that you're not good enough to get there? Or is it more that it's happening very slowly, I'm never going to get there? Or I can't figure out how to wake up? Whatever experience you're having, mind will suggest that thought to you and you'll feel the resulting emotion. So if you question that, is it really true, actually, with a curiosity? There is no good at all to just, is it really true? It's more of expansion of an opening. You cannot ask, is it really true, and contract at the same time. You can try this out right now. If you imagine any particular thought that you, or emotion that you struggle with, let's use fear as an example, because that was a huge one for me. Fear says, I'm not safe and I'm in danger. And this is the the hallmark of being a separate being, someone who's born and is eventually going to cease existing. Is it really true that I'm not safe? Actually, even though I may be feeling fear right now, I may be experiencing fearful situations in my life, things that bring anxiety, things that bring worry, fear. All of these are different words for fear. Then I'm going to begin to immediately, even if my body hasn't begun to change how it feels, I will not be able to grasp this fear and continue to experience it. I won't be going into division with this fear. I won't be someone experiencing fear. Most importantly, I won't be scared. I'll be myself, the self, and I won't know that even that I'm scared. And that's even if the body is still feeling the waves of the vibration of fear. So immediately, from I know to I don't know, and I really want to find out. And it's instantaneous. The moment that we're asking a question, we're going to be immediately brought out of being able to suffer. So this is why I'm always giving questions for contemplation, because if I'm asking in any moment, is it really true? Fill in the blank. At that moment in time, I am not believing any thoughts at all. None. And the more I ask the question and open up, the easier it's going to be for me in the next moment to stay open, and even more easier in the next moment. And the next time the same emotion comes up, I'll be further removed away from it energetically. And eventually I can live constantly in a kind of effortless meditation of not knowing at all anything. My body and mind will just function as they do. My mind may know plenty of things, but I don't know anything. It'll be the lived experience. And far from the disaster that mind says it is just the most beautiful experience any human being can have, to not actually know anything that we're being convinced of. So we're asking this question, and it brings us openness. The very next thing that's going to happen with the question is we're going to be presented with the answers that we have given a lot of attention to. So is it really true I'm not safe? There'll be this emotion of fear. Are you going to agree that this answer is correct? Are you going to agree that I'm scared or I'm in danger? Something is waving a flag going, help, danger, SOS. That's our mind, our egoic sense of self. It believes it's finite and it's going to one day no longer exist. So we ask the question, we don't know what is true in that moment. Mind and our emotions will suggest an answer, and we just stay open. We just stay open. Is that really true? Whatever is given as an answer to that question, we stay open. We don't know that any particular answer is right. Let's take another example, hopefully, to help illustrate this. Another one from my own experience. Let's say you're trying to meditate and you're feeling extremely disturbed. There's a lot of restlessness in the body, restlessness in the mind. And you were fine, 5 minutes ago you were watching something on the telly, and then you decide it's time to meditate, and all of a sudden all this stuff happens. So what you seem to need in that moment is peace, lack of disturbance. So we can turn our meditation into a contemplation and ask the question, is it really true that I need to find peace? First thing that's going to happen is you'll feel better, because you're not automatically agreeing and contracting. It hurts us in our infinite nature to imagine a division inside that which is one and whole and complete. And if I contract around any thought, and agree, yes, that thought is applying to me, then I've become, in my imagination, a separate being. And we all know, hopefully, already enough of how that feels. It feels too small. It feels too limited, too cramped. The moment you don't know, actually, that that's true, that you even need to find peace, even though the experience is happening to you right now, you'll feel different. And the disturbance and the restlessness are another answer to that question. Again, you don't know that that applies to you either. So the moment you don't know, you are immediately being the self. Immediately. The self doesn't know anything. Just like that, in that moment, you are being the self. This is why I'm very, very passionate, you may be noticing, about questions, because they are the fastest route out of suffering. And it's instantaneous. Any time that we're suffering, it's because we've closed around a particular answer again. And in doing so, we're imagining ourselves to be separate again. So awakened beings really are just those that have learned to perpetually live in a question, as a question. They don't know that they're enlightened. They don't know that they're peaceful. They don't know that they're free. They don't know any of this. At first, they thought they were a human being and all that comes with that. And then they thought they were awakened and getting somewhere and feeling much more peaceful. And then in the end, they didn't even want to know that. They threw out that knowledge as well. So there's just tumbleweed going through the consciousness. And any time that mind suggests something, there's nothing at all within you that can close up around that thought and pay it a lot of attention. Attention is just open, taking in everything equally. And we've lost that capacity to close back up and know something. Anything that we know, we're going to experience. Even if I know I am the self, I'm going to have to keep having the dualistic experience of being the self, and then being the ego, and then being the self. And if you've done that a few times, it gets quite boring. So don't even know that you're infinite. Don't even know that you're the self. Don't know what that is at all. Don't know anything, and see how you feel. And of course, self-inquiry is a form of contemplation, to ask the question, what am I really? Who am I? What am I? Or where am I, if you prefer that question, is immediately undoing the assumption that I am this separate being. I am my body. I am my thoughts. I am my emotions. You cannot ask that question with curiosity, what really am I? And still be believing that you are someone or something. It's just not possible. When it's going this way, I know this thing with a conviction. I know I am my ego. And then the next thing we're all convinced of, I know I need to get away from my ego and get back to the self. What if you didn't know that for a second? Even that. What if you didn't even know that you're the one yo-yoing between the two experiences? Is it really true that I have to stabilize as the self? Is it really true that I have to find constant peace? So self-inquiry is the most direct question of all, because it's going to show you what you thought you were, so that you can begin to have the choice to not know. And as crazy as it may sound, the ultimate peace, effortless joy, and infinite love come from not knowing anything at all. That is exactly the highest and the simplest state. So you can even get really, really simple about this. The moment you find yourself suffering at all, ever, is because you know something. You don't even need to know what you know. You can just open up again and say, is it true that I know anything? Even this question will immediately bring you out. I hope you're experiencing this now as I'm talking. I hope you're trying this as I'm talking and really just coming to experience how beautiful it is to not know. And that just by asking a question, our energy is shifting immediately from being like this, and then I know something. I know, when I know something about myself or the world or anything, I'm trying to force this infinite energy of my being through one particular thought. No wonder it hurts, that you are effortlessly happy and joyful before thoughts. You don't have to get rid of thoughts. Just have to notice where attention's going to them automatically. And then question, is it true? Is it true that I've even got to transcend the mind, really? What happens when you don't know that even? What happens when that thought is no longer given attention? Is it really true that mind is talking to me? Is it really true that I'm affected by this? In the openness of a question, you're immediately free. You're free already, but you'll experience limitation and being finite. You'll experience and live as that if you know something, if you pick up thoughts. So this is just a gentle invitation to recognize what you are sure that you know. Do you know that there is much further for you to go before you get to this place that I'm talking about now? Do you know that you're nowhere near my experience that I'm having here? I just ask you to throw all that out and don't know that any of it is true, and you'll immediately be in the same experience as I'm having right now. The only difference is I've turned my life into a question, so it became effortless to ask that question, to live as that question. So much so that there is nothing my mind can suggest that would be appealing to me. There is no longer any capacity to habitually put attention on thoughts. It's a choice, and I just choose not to, because mind is talking about my personal self, my egoic self, how it sees the world. So don't be too quick to know anything. Don't know that you are ego. Don't know that you are the self. Don't know that you're getting somewhere. Don't know that you're not getting anywhere. And see how you feel. Just a willingness to find out if it's true. You can do that instantaneously, always, no matter what emotion or thoughts are playing, no matter how loud they are, no matter how far you feel from freedom in this moment. You're only ever the distance of a question away from freedom. So hopefully you can see why I'm very passionate about this, because it is quicker than quick. It's instantaneous. It's just a shift of energy from feeling the tension of I know to let me find out, actually, even though my body's experiencing it right now, even though my mind is talking about it right now. You might just discover that you're not really so far away from constant effortless peace. You might find out that it's not really that difficult. All these things that we've been convinced of, all these things that I know I've tried so many times to wake up and I fail every time. All these ideas that we just buy automatically. You can get a refund with your question. Money back guarantee. Okay. If anybody would like to ask a question or to share something about what I said, or to ask for more clarity, or to have a spiritual question, if you want to I have a question that's been emailed in, which I'm going to read out first. But if you want to click on participants and click on the blue hand to raise hand. Can't get my words out now. Lovely. I'll come to you in a minute. I see that you're waiting for. Okay, so the question that was emailed in says, a pattern has shown up in a family member. It is much better and gentler manifestation. The family member is not aware of vasanas and just thinks she is prone to this pattern. It is a form of self-sabotage that she does, but not consciously. So a vasana is just a term for a mind pattern. So some particular thoughts that come up and some emotion that goes with it, and the resulting experiences that we have to have because we're believing those thoughts. So the family member is not aware of vasanas and just thinks that she's prone to this pattern. It's a form of self-sabotage that she does but not consciously. Whenever anything is shown, I look within to see what belief is there. I see that for it to appear, there must be a belief in a separate being. I am allowing, and there is very little, if any, reaction to it except to recognize the pattern. There isn't a need for it to stop. So this is already somebody who's quite far into their seeing, that someone who appears to be suffering, our immediate response normally is to want to change that for them. And of course, we may do what we can to help, but that being is going through what they need to go through to wake up. And of course, you would never wish anyone suffering, but we can use the situations that happen to help us transcend. I think my question is, how does someone not aware of vasanas and a spiritual meaning or journey break through? I am asking, is this possible without the body and the mind that sees another being? And the answer is no. As I'm asking this question, I know her manifestations have become much gentler, but there still seems to be a process. Okay. So, can someone who's not aware of this satsang and enlightenment and awakening break through this pattern? Well, the answer is yes, because really everyone's in satsang, everyone, whether they're conscious of it or not. The self is the Nirvanan, the self, it is experiencing this thought again and again and again. And gradually, very, very slowly, because they still perceive themselves to be a separate being, they are coming to really dislike what it feels to feel that thought, to experience that thought to be true. The process will be very, very slow. It may take an entire lifetime to tire of experiencing I don't feel worthy, or some self-sabotage, as it was suggested in the thing, is some idea that we're not good enough usually. So yes, you can, but very, very slowly. Why? Because the person who's not aware of the real nature of our self has nowhere else to put their attention to. It wouldn't occur to them to question if that thought is true, because the egoic sense of self is all that person probably knows themselves to be. The egoic sense of our separate sense of self is just made up of these thoughts that we're still paying attention to. And that's why it begins to dissolve. Ego begins to dissolve when we take attention away from these thoughts with a question, or through meditation, or a seeing and being our real self. So yes, that person can transcend, but it'll take a very, very long time, and maybe even several lifetimes to really, the self, when it's tired of experiencing that thought, when it's no longer able to get anything learning wise out of that thought, that experience, that emotion, it will just come out of it. That process can be very lengthy and protracted, really. So I hope that helps to answer that question. We'll go to Lopo.
Hi, Helen. Thank you so much for this time. I really feel like a lot of my, I'm using I and my, but
no, it's okay, don't worry.
A lot of the time I don't know what my thoughts are until they're an emotion, and
Yes.
until it absolutely overwhelms me. I think I've been so ingrained with the thinking patterns and things like that, that I've never actually been aware of. Like, there's some days when I'm really aware of my thoughts, and I can either attach or not, you know, but there's some days when it seems like it comes out of nowhere, and then I'm unsure of then, and then I'm so in depth with it, and I'm so identified with it, it almost feels like it's too late.
Yeah.
How do I sort of go about that?
We can actually, there's so many thoughts that are so under the conscious radar, because we're just so used to believing them. We've probably come into this lifetime with them, and we've chosen a situation in our life to help us experience those thoughts and come to see that they're not true. But how do we know what they are if there's just a constant noise going on that we can't always pick through? And the key is the emotion. Those conscious thoughts are like the branches on the tree, and the emotion, the negative emotion, is the main trunk of the tree. So if we spend all our time trying to get rid of these branches, to deal with the branches, they're just going to keep growing back. Instead, if we look at the emotion and actually the story behind that emotion, each negative emotion has a very basic primal story behind it. So we may not know what the actual thought is that we're believing that's leading to this emotion, but we can trace it back. So for example, if I used to have a lot of anger, a lot of fear, a lot of unworthiness. So you can kind of, if you take the emotion of fear and imagine it was a human body and it had a mouth, you know, what would it say to you? So it'd probably say something like, what would it want to tell you? I'm not safe, I'm in danger, something like that. That's that kind of the base raw story behind fear, isn't it? Anger, you could say something like, it's not fair, I can't get what I want, I'm being blocked. There's some sort of very general idea behind each emotion. So instead of trying to sort through all of these conscious thoughts that you're having, if you work at the level of the emotion, and in the Facebook group, there is a list of hidden beliefs behind emotions that will list all the common negative emotions and tell you the story. And none of us are walking around going, I'm not safe. You know, we're sitting in our car, we've got enough money to pay the bills or whatever is going on. But the very fact, if I'm feeling fear, some part of me must be really convinced still that I'm not safe, even though I'm a mature, mostly mature adult, you know, that is, you know, able to live a normal life and run the household and all of that. There's still some little child deep down inside that's convinced that it's in danger. And this is the voice of our separate self. So we can trace back these stories that some part of us is still believing, incredible as it may be, to sort of recognize we must still feel this way. The presence of a negative emotion, even frustration, you know, irritation, impatience, right? You know, these sort of things aren't happening fast enough for me is the idea behind those, you know, right down to grief and all the heavy emotions. I've lost what I need to be happy, grief says. It's gone and I cannot get it back. You know, it's apathy is, it's not worth me even trying. There's no point in continuing. You know, that you can see the basic story behind the emotion. And then you can just ask, actually, is that true? Is it really true? I'm not safe. Even though consciously you might be, well, of course it's not true, you know, but you want to keep asking that question. It's the only way to undo attention being, it's like flypaper, isn't it? Mind says, da da da, and attention goes, you know, yeah, there goes my piece. But if you're gonna, that's going to happen. The only antidote is to question if it's true.
Okay.
And as I sort of woke up more, it was clearer and clearer that my real self didn't believe any of this stuff. It wasn't capable of it. It was just peaceful. But there was also this other part of me that needed a little contemplation to undo the effects of these stories, these beliefs. Can you get a sense of what emotions are coming up?
Yeah, so a lot of sadness, and I'm unsure of, so not to disregard it and not to try and fight it away. But I was also wondering, is it okay to allow that emotion to come up and out? Because
Yes.
I think I've through I spoke about before, through my using, I've been very numbed. So it's not really sort of been what it's been there, but I've not experienced it.
Yeah, you can see sadness is saying, it's got general despondency. Sadness is saying, I can't get what I need. And it's a kind of a real, I just want to be safe, I want to be happy, and that's just not happening for me, or something, you know. And we've had experiences that prove this to ourselves again and again and again. So it's really held on to by the core of our ego. So in asking the question, is that really true? Then you're automatically going to be open, and that's going to allow the emotion to come anyway. You're not going to be able to resist the emotion there, which mind says, oh, that's a really bad idea. But it's not actually, because in the openness of the question, the emotion will lift so much quicker. You've probably noticed. Just sitting with the emotion, not resisting it, it's lifting. It's coming back. This emotion that we've never been able to feel consciously. We can allow it to be felt, but at the same time, with a question, asking if it's true. So you're not pushing anything away, but you're also not going to sustain this story. It's going to lead to more sadness in the future. Question is a beautiful sort of place to rest yourself, because you're not going to be sustaining the idea that's led to it, but you're also not going to be suppressing the energies that have been caused by this idea, which is the emotion. It's incredibly empowering. But it's a great question, because everyone can use it for whatever situation's going on in their life. And we all have the same negative emotions. We all feel unworthy. We all feel scared. We all feel despondent, desperate, sad. It's all common human experience from not getting what we want. And what we want more than anything is to feel loved, to feel safe, to feel happy. The very simple needs, but our experience has taught us over and over again that we just can't get them until we sort of realize they've got to come from the inside first.
Wonderful. Thank you, Helen.
Let me know how you get on with that. Will do. Barbara? Hello. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's really, really nice to be here and feel this wonderful energy. I don't really have a very clear question as ever. In fact, what you just said for Lopo is pretty much, it's amazing how the satsang is always exactly on point for whatever's unfolding. The last week has been hell, and I felt that completely almost like dropped back on the earth, as if all that being able to watch from a place of complete detachment has disappeared.
So what's the idea then? What's the story? What's the emotion that comes with it? What's the feeling that the negative emotion that comes up?
It started a week ago, probably with, I think the main thing is the happiness. I haven't got what I want. It seemed to be relationship, focused. I'm not loved and wanted as I want to be. And it's not enough. I want more.
So is it a feeling of, could it be sadness, like we were just saying, or is it, how is it showing up? What kind of negative emotion?
To go back into it, probably sadness, I would say, more than anything else.
So what would you say the story is behind that sadness? Could you take a stab at it? I put you right on the spot there, haven't I? Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's because there's been so much coming up. It's not the most recent thing, and it kind of feels like it's passed away so far again that it's difficult to hook back into it.
I think it's worthwhile actually really looking at this, even though it may not be actually current right now, because what I'm suspecting is there's some idea that I just can't get what I want underneath this. You know, I can't get it. It's just not possible. It doesn't stay, even if it does come. It being peace and happiness and joy. So, you know, and outside of this satsang, you can probably look at the emotion and really just sit with a pen and paper and say, what is it trying to tell me? You know, if it could speak the sadness, what would it say? Would it say I'm lost? Would it say there's no point doing this anymore? What would it say? You know, so you can sort of really nail it down.
It seems to be saying, in terms of the relationship, this isn't what I asked for. I asked for more. I asked to be included. I asked for everything.
So what is it then? A sense that I want more than I'm getting, or something like that.
It's almost like it's too painful to not have what I asked for. It's almost like it would be better not to have it at all than not to have what I asked for, was the point it kind of got to. Like, there's the pain of being in this place, staying here.
So what I'm hearing is I can't get what I want.
Yeah, okay.
Can you see that underneath?
Yes, I can.
So if you have that idea deeply embedded in the core of your being, is there any area of your life you're going to be able to experience lasting happiness? You know, bearing in mind that most of us want the biggest thing that we want is awakening. So can you experience constant, stable joy and peace with that idea deeply rooted in your consciousness? Or is it going to have to keep coming and going, coming and going? Sometimes you're living as the self, sometimes you're living as that idea. I can't get what I want. What I want, it could be enlightenment, it could be a relationship, it could be a new car, it could be a job, it could be more money, but it'd be playing in every area of your life. But all of us have a particular karmic patterns where these ideas are going to show up more for us in this area, you know, in particular. But you can see this, hopefully you can see this idea, I just can't get what I want. So much so that it's just not even worth wanting anything anymore. It's just too painful, as you said. And I remember this feeling very clearly. Something was just like, I don't even want to desire anything anymore, especially not awakening and peace, because it just never comes. So if that the idea is kind of running like that, are you ever going to be able to effortlessly, continuously experience peace? It's just not going to happen, is it? So even though you're having the experience, well, not right now, but even though it's appearing in your life that way, even though sometimes the emotion goes along with it, you can still ask this question, even though your mind is convinced it's true. Is it really true that I can't get what I want? You know, even though I've had lots of experiences of it being true, I'm just still going to question and stay open. Can you get a sense?
Thank you.
I'm going to, and then of course mind will tell you some thoughts as an answer to that question. And then there'll be an emotional response to that question, positive or negative. Then there'll be some experiences, maybe of not getting what you want. And you're going to stay with that question even through the experiences. Because then if you say, you see, you know, that is true. And you've contracted around this experience answer. And it's not even the story that's causing you pain. It's the contraction around a thought, because you've separated yourself from your wholeness then. And it feels divided, it feels untrue, so untrue. So stay with this question and sort of really come to see, how could I ever experience what I really want with this idea in place? You know, challenge it and challenge it and challenge it. What can stop you is the infinite being from being happy. Only looking through this thought, I cannot get what I want. And all the plays it's playing out in your life is where your mind keeps pointing at and going, see, it's true. But those experiences are coming because we're still giving attention to the thought that perhaps we didn't even know was there, because it's just so well believed. You know, we've had a whole existence, sometimes this thought's been there, never consciously. Even if I do get what I want, it's got to leave again at some point with that belief in place. Got momentary experiences of happiness or whatever we want, love or approval or all of that.
Seems to be linked in with also I'm not safe, as you were saying. That's one of the other ones that is in there. And then I got into a real thing about being a bad person and the whole thing, you know, you don't deserve awakening and all of everything they've just said, really. The whole
if you don't,
real.
if you don't feel deep down that you can get what you want, then your mind is going to have to try to explain why that isn't happening. You know, so it'll create all these ideas to explain why you can't get what you want. And feeling unsafe is just another thing that you want. You want to feel safe. You want to feel secure. You know, that's another want, isn't it? You know, I want to feel worthy. I want to feel safe. I want to feel loved. I want to feel peaceful. And all of that is going to have to be undercut. Say again?
I want to be a good person.
But none of it can come with this idea underneath, can it? I remember coming across this idea after so many years of seeking enlightenment. I thought, gosh, how many times have I experienced not getting what I want? And what I want more than anything is to be free of mind or something. It's very literally living it out, that belief. It took me a while to see it from what my experiences were showing me. I get peace and then it would disappear. And it's like, how can it stay with this idea in place? It's like a virus in the software, isn't it? Lovely. Have fun with the question. Sharon?
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Hi. Oh, I'm doing well. I've been sitting with the book to, quite a bit, the reality check, and I'm reading it and kind of just inhaling or marinating in it, because it's not a book to be read. It's a book to be known, by me, by the knower. But the one thought that was bringing me extreme peace was being formless means you're effortlessly here.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, and I've had such deep peace. I guess I could describe it as like a bliss feeling. And then there's something that happens where the mind comes in and distracts me by getting fidgety, by distracting me with doing something else. Like, in other words, kind of like as much as, I know that I want enlightenment, at the same time, the mind is, still intriguing because it's distracting me.
Mm-hmm.
I have had a situation that I'd like to understand. There's a man that was killed. He's an African-American man, and he was killed about 2 nights ago. And when I went on Facebook, I started to cry. And I don't know where that's coming from, but I think it's a pattern, because I can go back and tell you that everything that happened with my own son, with his addiction, with my childhood, it's patterns of not feeling safe. And the question is, this is all the self. So this man is okay, but for me, it brings up tremendous grief that someone could go through that. Like, why, so I don't understand. Like, here I am in formless being, peaceful, blissful, and then all of a sudden I'm back in my, just like I told you the other day, still Sharon.
It's always got to be some idea underneath the root of it, that's seemingly being attention goes to that. What is so blissful about being effortlessly here is the idea that you are safe. What that means, that you're effortlessly here, is that you never started, you never come to an end. And also, you don't need anything to support you. You don't depend on anything to exist. All of us have this idea that I need the body to exist, or that somehow, even if I'm aware of my body and I know I'm not it, there's some idea that my experience will be diminished when it goes, like I won't be able to experience anymore. And the recognition that I'm effortlessly here, for me, it just brought this, after I'd looked at it a few times, obviously, this utter knowingness that I don't depend on anything for my existence, you know, and there's nothing, I don't have to plug myself in and charge myself up. There's nothing that can harm me. I don't need to be sustained like the body does. You know, the body needs food and sleep and, you know, water and all of that stuff, and that's fine for the body. But if I don't need anything for my existence, then I'm going to continue endlessly. And that's what feels so good, that recognition. That I'm never going to end because there's nothing that can cause me to come to an end. If I needed all these supports for my existence, then any one of them taken away would be my end too. So that is a feeling of being, there's the utter, that's the height of security. And
So
then,
yeah, I'm sorry.
no, it's okay. Mind will cut in then, because it's going to test you and say, yes, but what about this? You know, so if you are aware that this is going to happen, mind is trying to help you now, bringing forward where you still have doubts to clear up. It's going to try to distract you from that knowingness. So let's see, are you distractible as this real self? What can mind say to you that is going to distract you? It's a question that's really important, isn't it? Because the belief is that I'm just peaceful and a mind talks to me and suddenly I'm feeling very, very different. The sadness is not really about what is going on that you've perceived. It's about the sense suddenly of being a separate being again. The moment we contract around an idea, we're going to experience as a separate being again. At one moment you were just consciously being your formless self.
Yes, more than a moment. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, and then in
almost,
the next moment, attention is given to this thought, and this
right.
seems to have been a change for you. But is that true? Have you changed in that seeing, in that moment?
No, and the mind is actually trying to help rather than, I wanted to hear that. The mind is helping me, it's not hurting me.
Yeah.
Right. So
Once
it's
you've
okay.
seen what you are, it will bring to you then all the things it can't resolve on its own.
Okay.
To say, please, but our natural response to it is, why are you disturbing my peace? But it's trying to say, okay, can you be distracted? It's offering you an opportunity. It doesn't feel like an opportunity, but you can use it as an opportunity.
No, when you say that, it does feel like that, you know, because it does feel, you know, in here, it feels true for me, you know. So looking at that man that was brutally killed is just like the mind saying you still believe you're not safe in some way. And maybe I just have to.
The form can be hurt or damaged or come to an end, as you described with that poor man's situation.
Mm-hmm.
But are you going to then agree that you can be hurt and damaged, which will cause your energy to drop and you'll feel divided, you see? So
right. That's very
in
helpful.
this moment, if you're being your infinite formless self,
Mm-hmm.
then you are right where that person is already. You are everywhere and all of this. So this idea is seemingly occurring that that you can be harmed. It reminds you that you can be harmed when something like that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you have compassion for him as well, but it is just offering you this idea, please investigate this for me.
when you start getting more and more into truth, there seems to be more compassion
Absolutely.
in some, for the other beings, like I'll just have my tears just falling and I have no idea. And what I've learned is not to try to understand it, because then I fall back into the analysis and I don't need to understand it.
Sometimes there's just some energies need to come out of the body, be felt, and that's the way it happens. Sometimes you may just have taken a little karma off someone else, because your body's open enough to feel and you're not resisting anything as the self. You can process that vibration for them much faster than they can. That kind of thing will happen every now and again as well. The crucial thing is to, like you said, really, really well, to recognize the mind is helping you now, and to have that openness to what it wants to tell you.
I love hearing that, Helen, because it's been so long that I shared that last night in the Sangha, that it's been so long that just meeting you, I've learned that the mind is really on my side, because I for some reason thought that I had to cut the mind off.
You're going to move away from its gravitational pull, but not by making it wrong. It's one of those things, isn't it? And I kind of realized that mind is giving me all the things, all contemplation questions. Mind is suggesting to me through thoughts and experiences what I need to question. So it's lining up these experiences and the infinite piece of all that is, and then suddenly I feel distracted. Okay, can I be distracted? Suddenly I'm distracted by mind. Can I actually be distracted? See, whatever mind gives you, you turn it into a question and you use that energy and you work with it. And then that bit of the mind will go back into balance because you've resolved it for the mind. The mind can't do it by itself. It's not sentient per se, is it?
It's just it's tears now, the gratitude I have for you, because there's something in me that knows that this is I'm not saying other beings don't want us to wake up, but you just came into my life, and I know that's why you're here, and I'm just so grateful.
Lovely to hear. I did my time fighting the mind as well, trying to push against it for a very long time, and it just didn't work at all. It made things worse. Eventually I figured out, well, there must be a different way to do this, a more intelligent way to work with mind. So it's lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Wonderful. Phil?
Hi everyone.
Hi Phil, how are you doing?
I'm really well. It's lovely and sunny. What more could a man ask? I'm not got no viruses, and it's been sunny. What more could a man want?
We're all good, yeah.
Yeah, all good. You probably answered it. Well, you may have sort of answered it. Contemplation. Trying to find the root cause and emotion is I found that quite difficult, in that I've contemplated quite a lot. The question I use, is it really true that I can't get what I want? Which is sort of an all-encompassing thing. But I do get a lot of thoughts, as we all do, but they seem quite inconsequential. There doesn't seem to be an obvious emotional tie to the questions that come. So I'm trying to investigate this. So thoughts about work or shopping or just random things. And there doesn't seem to be a commonality with them, or there doesn't seem to be any tie back to an emotion. And it was just, I don't know if I'm missing something, or I should just continue it, and it's just the mind, just a general distraction, or if there is an underlying emotional issue that I'm missing here.
It really, only you know kind of what negative emotions you feel on a regular basis, and those will be the place to start with, because the thoughts that are going on consciously are mind's attempt to explain why I'm feeling the way I feel.
I feel fine. I feel absolutely fine. I don't have any bad feelings at the moment. I just feel great. So
if we can't diagnose it, so to speak, from our negative experiences, then we may be able to diagnose it from our experience. Is there anything, and you don't have to tell us live here, of course, it's just a question to look at within yourself. Is there anything that keeps happening in your experience that you'd like to get rid of, or that you'd like to have more of? That will tell you. So you can either tell from your emotions the story, or you'll literally see it playing out in your life. You know, it was for me, situations of not feeling, the fear was very, very pervading. But that it was also playing in all of my experiences as well, that I just can't get what I need to feel safe. You know, that was the thing that was going on underneath most of it. So the other place to look, if it's not so obvious from your emotions, is to look at your experiences. And so what keeps happening to you in a general way? Do you keep not getting what you want? Do you keep not having happiness? Is there peace, but then it disappears? You know, and if there's nothing wrong, there's nothing wrong. If you're feeling peaceful all the time, great. You know.
No, I'm not. Obviously, I'm not. I'm not feeling like a wonderful, enlightened, peaceful being. Otherwise, I wouldn't be asking.
Sometimes there is just a general emotional state of disturbance. You know, I remember being really young watching Star Wars and hearing them say there's a disturbance in the Force. I thought, yeah, that's my life. I just feel disturbed, you know, not at peace, not content.
So it could be. I think the question was, could it? I wanted to know if I could be missing an emotional route, or I may be looking for something that's not there. I think that was sort of boiling the question.
My experience was, and I'll say this in case it resonates, that I was so used to not getting what I wanted. I so wanted to feel safe and loved and approved of and happy and free. And then I transferred all that upon enlightenment when I found out what enlightenment was. And enlightenment's going to give me all those things. I was so used to not getting what I wanted that I just didn't let myself want anything. Because as Barbara was saying before, it hurts so much to want something because there's such an idea behind it that I'm never going to get it. You can imagine something shuts that emotion off then. You know, there's nothing worse as a human being than wanting something and not being able to get it, not feeling as if you can get it.
That does resonate. That actually, we've had this conversation before.
Maybe once.
At least once.
What that results in is something can't cope with that emotion because it's so painful. I did it myself. We kind of okay, I'm done with wanting anything. I'm just gonna we're not doing this consciously at all, but if I really feel I can't get what I want, and that could just be to feel loved or safe or happy. It can also be material things as well, a better job, more money, you know, more friends, all of that, or even enlightenment. I can't get that. Then something goes, well, there's no point wanting anything. I'll just give up and accept. And it just kind of results in this flatness, you know, dullness in our life, that we're not wanting anything. We want a whole lot of things, but we won't let ourselves feel it because it's going to hurt.
Very good. Yeah. Yes.
So,
I realised there what I've been missing. No.
If you sort of recognise, you may have to be willing to feel these emotions when they come up. But you can ask, you know, what do I really want? That was a real useful question to help me get back into what I disassociated myself from my desires, because I was just so sure that I wouldn't get them, so sure. And of course I kept experiencing that then.
Oh, thank you for that.
Wonderful, good question.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take two more and then we'll finish there. So Vidya.
Namaste, everyone.
Namaste.
Yes. Is there a wrong way that you could ask a question so that it doesn't, if you're not asking it the right way, it's not going to undo anything? And also, if there's no emotion there, but, you know, something sort of keeps showing up, but it's okay, it's there, I can look at it or maybe laugh at it, because something sort of knows it's not true, but you know, it's sort of like a pattern there, so I can ask different ways, but it's still, you know, might say the wrong thing, or yeah, it's not good enough, or I'm not right, did I get it wrong, you know? Yeah. So is there a way that a wrong way of asking the question, so it doesn't undo.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Really, it's why am I asking this question? If I'm asking, we're all going to have a mixed motivation. We're going to be asking to try to stop suffering. You know, that's coming from ego. I'm going to ask this question because I want to get away from this pain, and that's a natural human response, and it's fine. But there'll also be, there should hopefully be a curiosity and openness, and that's the hallmark of actually wanting to find out if it's true. You know, even though I kept experiencing it, I really want to see, like a curiosity. I really have to know if it's true. Either way, I'll either find out it is true, or I'll find out it's never been true. But either way, I just have to get to that conclusion. That's the kind of energy you want to be coming from. I'm asking this because I want to know, for no other reason than that. I want to know if it's true, actually, that I'm not good enough, because I've believed it for so long, and I actually just want to find out. Can you see the curiosity and the openness behind that energy that has got to bring you out of it? There'll also be ego there in the background going, because I want to ask this question because it's going to make me feel better, and that's fine. But your motivation, the one that you're kind of carrying, has to be all, you know, mainly curiosity. Yes, it'll have the side effect of helping you feel better, and your outer manifestational change, asking the question. But the reason for doing it is only to find out what's true. You know, because for so long I've believed that this thing is true, and I just want to know. It's like, have I been fooling myself all this time? For me, there was a sudden intense curiosity. I have to find out what reality is, actually, what really is true for me. You know, that kind of sense of, I realized I've been living in this virtual reality, experiencing these stories again and again and again, and it would go on forever if I didn't question into the next body and the next body. And does that help? It's
yes, it really helps to question it a little bit deeper, with more curiosity.
Yeah. You know, like a kid, when we're kids, we were just dying to find out what today was going to hold. We had no idea what today was going to hold for us. You know, you just go out and find out, don't you? And it's that kind of openness that we've lost, really, as adults to a large extent. When we're last really curious about what something is, what you are, you know, rather than experiencing through thoughts and all of that. You know, instead of experiencing our thoughts about life and ourselves, there's a curiosity to actually find out what I am.
I think because it's no real emotion behind it, and I don't feel like I'm suffering it, there's always that general peace there. But I'm just wondering, why is this being said, or why am I hearing this?
It'll be that, you know, identity is switching over to being the self that's not affected by any of these programs, beliefs that are still playing, but some part of you is still believing it. Therefore, you can see that because it's happening in your reflection in your outer world, in the manifestation. So I would continue to question until it's completely disappeared and you're having the opposite experience, and or all negative emotion around it is gone. That's the sign that you really cannot believe that thought at all. And you might never find out what the thought is, the story is, but you can still question, you know, and do so, just because you'd rather have a better experience as well. You don't want to keep going around this same loop ad infinitum, you know. Time for some fun and joy.
Yeah,
it gets a bit tiresome.
It does. It really does. Yeah. So I've seen this movie before. I know where it's going. Yeah. It's a little boring. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to Gaina. Last one.
Hello, can you hear me all right?
Can, yep.
Oh, sorry about the light in the background.
It's that giant fireball in the sky.
Yeah. Just a quick question, really. I had a situation come up today where it was a situation I'm not very comfortable with, and I had a lot of fear and anger around, which I fully allowed. I'd recognised that the previous day, and I was in that situation, and it reoccurred again today. Something very similar. And then I did feel like today I handled it a little bit better. But then while I was handling it, something was said, and it triggered a response, thoughts of like, how dare you say that, you know, within me. And I felt like maybe a bit ashamed or guilty, you know, of saying that, even though I don't think it was warranted to feel that way. But and I just wondered whether that's more of an unworthiness, and if it is, I just would like to see that a little bit deeper, that it's not really true for me, and what I could question, because my thoughts kind of get stuck on, yes, it's not true for me, well, why isn't it true for me? And then I'm like, well, because this is I have to kind of like really, well, it's all me, there's no mistakes, you know, that along that kind of line. So I just thought, I guess you help with it, really.
So whenever we're kind of experiencing something again and again, or some emotion or repeating experience like that, it's only because our attention is going to the phenomenal answers of thoughts, emotions, and experiences. So all of us will have at some point a seeing of what we really are, and we will see it again and again, deeper and deeper, and then we'll be presented with, as we were talking about earlier, all the places where we're still contracting around thoughts and phenomena, and where that habit is still in place. So anything like that that's triggered, it's really just where attention's going, and it has to be guided back. You can take it back to the real self. So even just to notice, what is it that its attention's going to? Is it the feeling, or is it thoughts, or is it?
It's the feeling. It's the feeling, and the emotion and the feeling in the body, really, I think.
So are you going to be able to take attention away from that by trying to think about why it's happening? Or is it really going to be easier to just take attention to the real self? You know, that which is not feeling any negative state about itself, not capable of. One of mine's diversion tactics is to try to analyze why you've felt this particular way. But right. The part and parcel of being a separate being, you know, as soon as I believe I'm a separate being, along with that, these add-ons come: not being good enough, not being safe, not being loved, not being appreciated, you know, kind of all of that, doesn't it, comes with it, because I'm separate from everything I want, including respect and feeling worthy and all of that. So instead of going to thoughts to try to explain, I would just always go to the silence of your real being. Is there any other answer to this question other than this emotion that I'm feeling? Yeah. Have you been contemplating about unworthiness? Is that what's led to this?
I don't think so, no. That's why I'm a bit like, it was more recently, it was, what I've realised more recently is that it doesn't matter, these emotions. They don't really, you know, these negative emotions that I've been trying to get rid of, that I'm not the one getting rid of them. So it doesn't really matter to me whether they're there or not.
Yeah.
And when I did have a feeling of fear and anger, and that I was really resistful to the situation, I just thought, can I be not happy, because it's not the right word, but can I be, you know, is there a part of me that doesn't matter that the anger's here, that the fear's here?
Right, yeah.
And then it, you know, and just to be okay with it. And
so you could ask, is it really true I'm affected by these? So then the immediate response will be the emotion. Mine will say, yes, you are, you're feeling this. But if it's just happening inside you, if your body is feeling it and it's appearing inside you, the great being, then it's going to be different, isn't it? It's going to be the big lived experience of it being there but not affecting you. Does that help?
Yeah, just say that again. Sorry.
The assumption that keeps, one of the assumptions that keeps us suffering is the idea that these thoughts and emotions are affecting us. And you said, I've just realized that they're not affecting me, they're not touching me, the real me. I'm the space that my body and my emotions are happening in. And where we seem to keep feeling them, there might be just some residual idea that these are affecting me.
Right, okay.
With that idea, I'm going to try to push them away, or I'm going to try to do something with them. Anything except just let them be.
Right, okay. So it's more kind of that rather than what the emotion means itself, it's more kind of, I'm feeling a variety of these because I feel like they could still affect me a little bit.
Yeah, and the shortcut to this is there any phenomenal thing that can affect me at all? Or even shorter than that, can anything affect me? Can anything harm me? Can anything cause me to suffer? That's a real shortcut question. You know, because the it's always going to be something that's coming and going that we're believing is affecting that which is always here. Something that's appearing inside the space of our being. And this, some emotion arises and a thought appears in a head, this I'm suffering. And that's true for mind, but it's not true for you. So what can affect me? What can cause me to suffer? That's a very quick question. You'll be shown immediately where you're still agreeing, yes, I'm suffering from this. You'll show, you know, this particular emotion or that person rubs you up the wrong way or something.
Yeah.
You know, and you'll go, is that true actually? Actually, am I actually affected by this emotion or this thought or this being or this lack of time or my body feeling unwell or whatever it is that's going on?
Right. Okay, yeah, it's really helpful, thank you.
Wonderful. It's kind of the general tendency now, isn't it? To kind of just clear up where you're still living the experience of being affected by things.
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of, that fits into place. Thank you very much.
Lovely. Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Lovely. So we'll leave it there for tonight. Thank you and namaste.